Bernina makes one of the prettiest satin stitches, and here we've actually also stitched over very bumpy pin tuck techniques that we do feature in our Bernina Stitching Cosmos online course. But I'm going to show you real quick on the Bernina 790 that there is actually a built-in satin stitch. So not just a zigzag that you adjust and make it all perfect, one that all you have to do is pick the stitch. Now if you're loving all these decorative stitches and want to learn more about our Bernina Stitching Cosmos online course, check out the links below this YouTube video, and you can even watch 10 of those videos for free. So let's take a peek at what we find in our machine. So normally when we think of satin stitch, we think of a zigzag that we shorten the stitch length until it looks nice and close together. Now this stitch length will depend on the thickness of thread you're working on. So still, depending, that is the one variable. But then again, how wide do you want it? I'm going to show you a couple tricks, and I'm going to be using foot number 20C. So make sure, let's go ahead and pick that right now so the machine knows that that would be an option to go all the way up to a full 9 millimeters wide if we wanted to. But I'm going to just push clear because the stitch number 2 zigzag is not the stitch that you want to use. Well, you can, but it's a lot of work. But if you hop right on over to our quilting menu, go to the third page and pick stitch number 1354. Voila! Satin stitch. Now look at how wide it is, 2.5. It's actually a pretty normal width, nice and narrow, nice and petite. But if your pattern is a little bit bigger and you want to proportion it, then that little zigzag is going to be very, very narrow. So again, find the proportion that's right for the applique you're going around. And again, stitch length puts us to 0.6. But what is the thread thickness you're working on? Little thicker thread, you're going to lengthen that out just a little bit so it doesn't pile up. And if you were using anything like a thinner thread, like an embroidery weight thread, you might even want to bring that down to 0.5 or less. So you can kind of control that final adjustment once you take a few stitches. Now don't forget, the one thing you'll need to do is put a little stabilizer behind your fabric. We talk about that when we talk about stitching out all your decorative stitches. Look how fun they are. They're fun on the screen, just wait till you start stitching them out. But fabric with a layer of tearaway stabilizer underneath is a great place to start. I'm also going to show you a way to use your needle position to adjust where within the open toe foot you'll be stitching. So I'm going to start off in the middle, but when I move the needle position to the far right, you'll see how we'll be able to create and follow the inside of that right toe of the foot for perfect alignment. So let's just check out how wide this stitch is. If you do notice that your needle is starting on the left side of this stitch, and that's indicated by the little white dot that's on the screen next to the stitch. So let's just go ahead and take a couple stitches and see how wide did or will I cover up that raw edge. The goal is to put as much of the stitch on the fabric you're appliquing. So you can see that that's a pretty narrow stitch. So if I just want to, I'm playing around right now. So if I just want to see what the width is, how my stitch length is, it's a good idea to do a little practice no matter what before you start stitching. Now I do have the needle stopping down, and I've activated the pivot option in the settings menu. So check out our video on how to set that if you are interested in being able to easily kind of go around corners. Now watch, if I was going to turn a corner, I'd take one more stitch, stop with the needle on that outside, and then be able to either pivot on a slight curve or rotate that around, especially like if you're going around leaves or something. Now I did mention about moving our needle position to the far right side. So I'm going to actually do that now. I'm going to bring the needle up. I've rocked my heel on the back of the foot control. I'm moving my needle all the way over to the far needle position, and that's to the far right, and we'll just kind of pick up where we left off here. So what you're able to do, can you see how you can guide the edge of the fabric? I know this isn't really fused down or anything, but it is working just fine. I'll be able to kind of creep right up to the end of that. But I'm using the edge or inside of that presser foot as my guide. I'm going to go ahead and turn this corner. I'm going to take that last stitch. I love how the fabric pivots. Look where my hands are. They're still just right there on the fabric, so I don't have to lift and lower. Using the freehand system to lift and lower the presser foot, that would be another option. But look how fun that is, just to run that fabric right along that inside of the toe, and then you're not guiding kind of way in the middle of this big open space. So again, try out different widths. I could find that I could probably bring that stitch length just a notch shorter, just to get it a little bit more dense, and so there's absolutely no fabric showing through. Now, if you are having to push the fabric, then that's when it's too close together. So that would be when you'd want to kind of back it up just a little. Let's just take a quick peek how this actually looks. Let's look at the difference in that stitch length that we just adjusted there. You can see that it is a lot denser here than it was on this side. So that's what a perfect satin stitch looks like. Kind of fun with variegated thread if you're looking for a fun like twist on your projects. So next up, let's talk about blanket stitch options that are built into the beautiful Bernina 790.